Good afternoon to our esteemed guest speakers, faculty, and students. I am Pradyumna, and I'm your anchor for today's session on Decoding Union Budget 2026 and 27. First of all, please take your seats as we prepare to begin this event, and kindly ensure your mobile phones are in silent mode. And also to clinch that we get the most out of this event, and we have a smooth and organized discussion. Also, no edibles allowed during the session, and make sure you are not interrupting the YouTube live session that is going on, as well as you maintain the decorum. Before we begin to unfold the event for the day, we will invoke in the blessings of the goddess of knowledge and wisdom. I kindly request all to stand for the Saraswati Vandana.
या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणारदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना च्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिः देवै सदा वन्दिता सरस्वती भगवती निःशेष जाड्यापहा.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, so let's begin. So, the Honorable Finance Minister presented the Union Budget 2026 and 27 on Sunday, February 1st, 2026. Today, we are gathered here for this special event along with our esteemed guest speakers who will share their insights and perspectives on the budget and what it all means for us and the impact of it on our economy. Our distinguished guest speakers will delve into the key highlights, opportunities, and challenges presented by the budget. They will also provide us with the knowledge and throw light on what the budget means for our future. To formally commence the event, it's my privilege to introduce and invite Dr. Amit Oak to provide an overview on the budget presented. Dr. Amit Oak is the Director of VIT School of Management and COO of Vidyalankar Institute of Technology. In his role, he manages the operations of the institute, strategizes on the budgetary allocations, supervises the financial management and routine accounts. He also directs the student council activities and guides the team on budgeting and sponsorship. He also looks into the smooth allocation and execution of the department and the institute events. With his rich and varied experience in the corporate world in training and mentoring roles, media and film finance, and financial service marketing, he imparts many practical and result-oriented lessons in management to the student community. Dr. Amit Oak.
Thank you. I'm sure you all here to listen from all these stalwarts who have come to share their experiences. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all respected dignitaries, faculty members, students, industry guests, and participants. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you to today's Union Budget Decoding session, a platform where policy meets perspective and numbers translate into national direction. The Union Budget is more than an annual financial statement. It is a reflection of the government's priorities, economic philosophy, and development roadmap. It signals where investments will flow, which sectors will expand, how taxation will evolve, and how inclusive growth will be perceived. For students of management, finance, economics, and public policy, understanding the union budget is not optional, it is essential. It shapes corporate strategies, investment decisions, industry growth trajectories, employment trends, fiscal stability and inflation outlook, social and infrastructural development. I want to throw light on highlights and key points which, as an educationist, I understand the current budget. The esteemed panelists here would certainly give a deeper and clear insight into the same. Budget aims to accelerate economic growth while maintaining fiscal discipline with emphasis on sustainable development and inclusive access to opportunities for all citizens. The government highlights growth, capability building, and inclusivity as guiding principles. Total government expenditure for 2026-27 is planned higher than the previous year, reflecting increased outlays on capital and social sectors. Public capital expenditure is boosted to support infrastructure and development. The fiscal deficit is managed prudently as a share of GDP, signaling fiscal discipline. Strong focus on manufacturing and strategic industries such as biopharma, semiconductors, electronics, and legacy industrial cluster revival, with dedicated missions and allocations to improve competitiveness. New initiatives aim to strengthen domestic value chains and global integration. Proposals include expanding human capital through education, health, and skill development schemes. Measures are aimed at youth empowerment and enhancing productivity across sectors. Taxation and compliance reforms are included to simplify processes and support both individuals and businesses with steps to make tax systems more efficient. Some policies encourage greater economic participation and ease of business operations. This budget outlines a continuity of growth orientation balanced with fiscal discipline, with clear strategic emphasis on manufacturing, infrastructure, human capital enhancement, and inclusivity, aligned with a broader long term vision for a developed India. In today's session, it is designed to move beyond headlines. We aim to decode the macroeconomic vision behind the budget, key allocations and sectoral priorities, taxation reforms and compliance changes, implications for all segments, that is MSMEs, startups, large corporations, impact on education, infrastructure, technology, and sustainability. What this means for young professionals and future leaders is of prime importance. This session is especially important in a rapidly evolving global economy where geopolitical shifts, digital transformations, sustainability concerns, and fiscal prudence are shaping national policy decisions. As future managers, entrepreneurs, analysts, and policymakers, the ability to interpret economic signals is a powerful competency. Budget analysis sharpens analytical thinking, strategic foresights, and decision making capability. I encourage all of you to engage actively, ask critical questions, and think beyond immediate reactions. Let us analyze not just what has been announced, but why it has been announced and what next. On behalf of the organizing team, I once again welcome you all and thank our esteemed speakers for sharing their insight with us today. Let us begin this session with curiosity, clarity, and a commitment to informed understanding. Thank you, and let's decode the budget together.
Thank you, Dr. Amit Ok, sir. It is my pleasure to now introduce our distinguished speakers to you. First up, we have Mr. Sunil Ramrakhiani. Mr. Sunil Ramrakhiani is working as a Chief Business Officer at BSE since May 2023. His efforts have been instrumental in driving positive change and progress within the organization. He has played a pivotal role in enhancing liquidity within the BSE derivative segment. His initiatives and strategies have significantly contributed to making BSE a more vibrant and competitive marketplace. Through his leadership, the derivative segment at BSE has made strides gaining market share, benefiting market participants and the exchange. He has over 28 years of diverse experience in Indian financial markets in various strategic and leadership roles. He has worked across exchanges, treasury in banking, broking, proprietary trading using low latency technology, and wealth management. In his previous roles, he has been instrumental in initial stages for setting up of Alpha Grep Securities in India and rolling out algorithmic strategies for proprietary trading in various organizations. He has an experience of building business from ground up and has worked across organizations like ICICI Bank, NCDEX, ILNFS Investmart, Way to Wealth Securities, and Quant AI Technologies. Beyond his professional role, he has made substantial contribution to the broader financial ecosystem. He has served on product committees at exchanges and advisory committees shaping the regulatory framework for alternative investment funds. Furthermore, he has actively interfaced with regulators, supporting the development and modernization of Indian capital markets. His involvement at both operational and strategic levels highlights his commitment to the sustained growth of industry. Welcome, Mr. Sunil. Next up, we have Ms. Becky Kyriakos, who is currently GM and HOD at Center for Content Creation at NISM, the education arm of SEBI. Ms. Becky has over 25 years of experience in Indian financial market with a deep understanding of fixed income and associated products, built over 2 decades in fund management across mutual fund and insurance. At 25, she became the youngest debt fund manager in India, entrusted with managing the India's industry's largest gilt fund at the time. Becky has worked with some of the country's most respected institutions, including Tata, SBI, Reliance, L&T, Murugappa, and the US-based Principal Financial Group. Over the past 3 years, she has pivoted to financial education and content creation, channeling her experience to simplify market, promote financial literacy, and help build more informed investors. She holds a BA Honours in Economics from Lady Shri Ram College and did a PGDM from IIM Bangalore. Welcome, Ms. Becky. Next up, we have Mr. Sanjeev Gokhale. Mr. Sanjeev Gokhale is a practicing CA in Mumbai and a prominent tax consultant for the last 33 years. His area of expertise are personal income tax, investments, and audit management. Mr. Gokhale completed his BCom, FCA, graduated CWA with an All India rank of 15 in the cost accountancy final exam. Mr. Gokhale has acted as a guest faculty in employee training programs for state and central government or subject of taxation and investment. He has delivered speeches on different forums at various colleges, institutions, and charitable trusts on subjects related to budget, tax, and GST. He is also a visiting professor at Vaze Kelkar College for the last 20 years. Mr. Gokhale has a strong media presence. He has been doing taxation program on ABP Maza Marathi news channel for the last 13 years in his show Paisa Zhala Motha as an expert on income tax. He appears regularly as a subject matter expert on live shows on budget analysis, as well as an interview on taxation on All India Radio and Doordarshan. His article on income tax published every Monday in Maharashtra Time for the last 3 years. Welcome, Mr. Gokhale. Next up, we have Ms. Himani Shah, who works as a co-fund manager at Alchemy Capital Management Private Limited. Himani Shah is a seasoned investment professional with over 22 years of experience in equity research, fund management, and marketing. As co-fund manager at Alchemy Capital Management, she co-steers the Alchemy Leader of Tomorrow, overseeing a set of approximately 1,000 crores. Previously, Himani held leadership roles at global powerhouses, including Morgan Stanley and Citigroup, specializing in the BFSI sector. A chartered accountant and CFA charter holder, she combines rigorously analytical skills with the philosophy of disciplined, research-driven investing. Passionate about holistic development, she also trains professionals in finance, soft skills, and image management. Welcome, Ms. Himani. Next up, we have Mr. Anil Ghelani. Mr. Anil Ghelani has been working with DSP Group since 2003. He is currently head of passive investments and products, managing a range of ETFs and index fund across asset classes. Previously, he served as the CEO and Chief Investment Officer at DSP BlackRock Pension Fund Managers. Prior to joining DSP, Anil worked at ILNFS Asset Management Company and SR Battery Boy, a member firm of EY. He has been a volunteer with the CFA Society India for more than a decade and has served as the vice chairman on the board. You can connect with him on LinkedIn, and to ask any career guidance or market insight, you can join his LinkedIn live session called Aage Ki Baat on first Sunday of each month. Mr. Anil will be moderating today's panel discussion. Welcome, Mr. Anil. Now I would like to request Mr. Anil Gilani to begin the panel discussion. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for the very kind introduction. And first of all, thank you to Sir to set the context and give the very unique way of explaining what we are here for today. Before I thank the friends on the stage for committing their time on a weekday during market hours, I would like to thank each one of you here. All of you are young friends, young professionals, some of you, of course, senior members from the faculty, but you are the future of finance. So we are here today so that in some small way, if we can help in navigating your journey of your career progression, that's something which would be very useful from overall perspective. So before we get started with this very interesting thing called decoding the budget, I just wanted to start with one small statement. Many of you who are part of, let's say, management college, many of you are focused on finance, marketing. Very less you might be focused on literature, How many of us over here are from finance side? Just quick hands up. And how many from marketing? Any other like HR, operations? Little bit. Literature side se koi hoga shayad nahi na? Might be one or two. Some one hand going up. Somebody there. Okay. So I'm going to very carefully listen to it, make one small statement and give you an opportunity to think what this statement means, right? Everybody with me? It'll take just 1 minute, then we'll kickstart with the more interesting session, okay? Buffalo, 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 buffalo. Does it make sense? अरे सर क्या बोल रहे हो आप चाय पिलाओगे सर को जरा नींद में लग रहे हैं राइट एवरीबडी सो आई जस्ट स्पोक buffalo 8 times without any punctuation, any comma, full stop, anything, right? Everybody will be thinking हर सर आप किसको लेके आया हमको बात करने के लिए, right? But later on, whenever you get a chance, just Google this. It's an official, grammatically correct word. You can read about it and it will give you the context and the background. But just think of it, friends, that this word, like 8 times the word buffalo, it has some meaning, basically, And sometimes what we just hear or think about has so much depth of meaning and insight. And hence, this type of sessions to decode what has been spoken in the finance budget or to decode what our curriculum is trying to teach us, that becomes very, very important, So it just highlights it how complex sometimes language mean to us in terms of what we are trying to do and connect that with our day job. So in very brief summary, some data point I have captured. Many of you might not be active in the profession that time, or you might be in school. In 91 was a very landmark budget, the LPG reforms budget, which was announced. That budget had 18,604 words, and it was the longest budget ever. The shortest budget ever was in 1977, which had only 800 words. Now, even definitely in those 800 words, this buffalo, cow, all that might not be there, but definitely it would be very complicated. So today we are here together with a very interesting mix of professionals who are experts in their fields to help all of us over here to decode what this budget would be, not just for the country and for the GDP and for the fiscal math that somebody else sitting as policymakers will do. It is important to know that. But besides that, all of us sitting here, how that is going to be impacting all of our lives as young professionals, how it will impact our career progression, right? Everybody with me with this? Okay? Yes, thank you. Little bit energy. I know it's after lunchtime, so we need to ensure everybody is awake. Last bench, some gentleman sitting in the tie. Very good. Thank you. You are awake now? Yes. Green shirt. Thank you. Photographer friend from video. Thank you. Okay. So let's get started with first very quick, very sharp round to continue with the engagement so that people don't fall asleep in a very sharp way in brief overview. What each one of you friends over here think about the budget that was announced, whether it was a hit or a miss, keeping in mind and wearing the hat of your area of expertise in your profession. And without any order, just I thought we can go in any sequence. But I just wanted to get started with Sanjeev sir. Sanjeev sir is very proficient. He's a very familiar media face. He's used to be putting on the spot. Okay, sir, tell us your view.
Yeah, I'm a tax expert working for last 34 years. Normally, a tax consultant or tax experts or even the common man looks after budget from the taxation point of view, even though the budget is not meant only for tax. It is meant for all the finances of the government. However, from the tax point of view, we are not expecting any much major differences or major changes in the budget. Considering that last year, finance minister had announced that bigger changes as far as tax slabs are concerned in the new tax regime, as well as up to 12 lakhs rupees if your income is below 12 lakhs, you will not be liable to pay any tax. A major announcement in almost last 20-25 years of my budget when I'm covering, no such big announcement I found as what announced in the last year. So we were not expecting major change for taxation this year. That same thing happened. No slab change, no further deductions, nothing. But this time the budget was covering two aspects. Number one, as you told it, just very briefly, the first is a procedural simplification of the various processes in the taxation for common man, for a common taxpayers. As we know, ease of doing business, ease of filing returns. So that we'll discuss later. So that was processing was very simple. Now processes are made simple. There is a big relief for taxpayer who are honest as far as this processes are concerned. Second, about the corporate taxation, there are some changes in the corporate taxation, especially MAT. So we need to understand that what those changes are. Some rise in the security transaction tax impacting a capital market or share market on the same day. And so these two elements we will be discussing. For me, as a very close observer of budget for last more than 20 years, I feel that the budget is a big hit.
Wonderful.
Because the budget was in the line with the government dreams of Vikasit Bharat by 2047. So if we want to develop nation India, then definitely our budget elements should be in the line with that dream to come true by 2047. So every aspect of budget, what we will discuss now, every policy, everything is in line with that Vikasit Bharat. So that's why big hit in line with the last year's budget, definitely.
That's wonderful. So not even miss or hit, big hit. Becky, what do you feel about it?
Hi, good afternoon to everyone, and thank you to VIT and Anil for inviting me. So I just want to look, Anil, from the budget from two lenses. One is the fiscal lens, and at its very core, the budget is about how much is government's revenue, how much is the expenditure, and if the government's expenditure is more than the revenue, how is the government balancing it? So I think as students, that's the first thing you need to understand. And that is the most critical part of the budget. So I think from that perspective, the fact that government has said that they will reduce the fiscal deficit further from 4.4 to 4.3, I think that's good because that shows that government is on the path of fiscal consolidation, and that's a comfort for the markets. International credit agencies look very closely at the budget for this number because we are also rated by sovereign credit rating of India by international agencies. So this number is very important, and I think I saw the government mentioning in one of the documents fiscal matters.
Right.
So so this is very important, but then there's a story to that also. While the headline is great, But if you look at the actual borrowing numbers, obviously, how does government fund this fiscal? It is by borrowing from the financial market, and that is the debt market. We have a very big debt market in India. And the borrowing numbers are a little on the higher side, which is about gross is about 17 lakh crore, which is a substantial over the previous year's borrowing. So that is why if you see the bond market, there's a bit of a concern on how this borrowing will get absorbed, right? Because this borrowing has to be taken in by the banks, the financial institutions, they have to absorb it. So there's a bit of concern on that, but I'm sure the government and the Reserve Bank, through its liquidity management policies, will, sort of manage the borrowing smoothly. And the second aspect is the lens of education that I want to apply. So education remains the sixth most important item in the budget. 1.39 lakh crore is what is being allocated to education. Now, government has to meet multiple levers. They have to look at school education. They have to look at higher education. Within school education, there are so many things. So school education continues to get 60% of this budget, and rest is to higher education. But interesting part, Anil, is, if you look at the economic survey, which also is a very rich document, I would encourage all of you to please read the economic survey from the website. Is that the economic survey talks about creative destruction at traditional HEIs, that is higher educational institutions, colleges, and it says that now the content delivery, how it is reaching the learner, it's becoming very important because today's learners have choice of a lot of platforms. And maybe the government needs to shift from institution-centric to learner-centric funding, which is what is being mentioned in the economic survey. So that's very interesting. And therefore, it shows that the government is aware of this creative destruction. And we know that we have this whole education to employment skills gap. So the government has put up a committee in place to look into it. So I think in all that, the budget makes,
So it's
budget
a
is
hit. In your view, it's a
absolutely
hit.
on the right track.
Bond market, maybe a miss, feeling like that, but otherwise it's a hit, right?
Yes.
In summary.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Sunil, let's come to you. I mean, from your perspective, of course, we'll go into a little bit more detail and all, like how we spoke about SGT and all. But at the broad top level, how do you think of the budget, basically, as a hit or a miss?
Thanks, Anil, and thanks, Dr. Oak, for inviting us to be part of the budget discussion. And first of all, students, be attentive, because Dr. Oak has told me the question which Anil is going to ask will be part of your question paper in the exams. So be awake. I'm just joking. So feel relaxed. So the interesting part is Viksit Bharat, definitely what Sanjeev mentioned about is something, the dream all of us live with. And that's what is the whole direction of the budget has been. And interestingly, budget earlier, like say, as Mr. Sanjeev was talking about, we have been awaiting budget for the long time. And these days, what is happening is there's so many reformative processes which happen throughout the year. So interestingly, I was one of the panelists in Delhi recently, and interestingly from Ministry of Finance, one of the person was there. So I was trying to do analogy between the way government is working these days, the way the regulators are working these days, and the way we as an exchange are working. I'm trying to do analogy onto that. So it's more like a startup culture everywhere. What is startup culture? When I say about the government is working like a startup in a sense, they try to make the processes which are going to become easier for you. That's what is called the ease of doing business. And that's what has been the government always been proactive in doing that. And that's where second leg in our market has been SEBI has been regulator, where they've been trying to reform the processes where our businesses become more and more easier for the broking community and for the exchanges. We do a micro changes in the processes that becomes a change in the process what we bring in. Why I'm trying to do analogy with the startup culture everywhere. Very importantly, whatever we are doing from the ease of doing business towards a Viksit Bharat is the ultimate goal in 2047 of the Prime Minister. And for all of us, and particularly you guys will be actually into the thick of the things and the way our economy is growing. The budget has been always run towards the pro-growth. As she already mentioned about the borrowing, ultimately is towards the spending. That's the way I look at it. And the way they want to expand our borrowing compared to the global markets is much more lower compared to the US markets and other places. But particularly coming back to capital market side, couple of reforms in terms of the arbitrages which were there in terms of the buyback. I'm sure Sanjeev is going to cover onto that. There's some taxation arbitrage between the individuals and the other guys were there. Opening up of the stock markets for the overseas individuals in that case. That's very, very important. Today, you can invest into overseas market directly into that stuff, opening our markets and opening the limits for them. I'm sure Himani is going to cover part of that, possibly onto that. So those are something which are bringing very, very important. Some taxation arbitrages where not arbitrage, I'll say in terms of the SGVs. I'm sure you might be knowing about the gold bonds which were there. Some people were trying to do buying gold bonds and carry arbitrage between the ETFs and that arbitrage. Those were things which were most smoothened and tried to bring the alignment in the current context. And definitely the last part has been the STT, which is we are going to discuss in detail. But to me, it appears like a pro-growth. I think Dr. Oak rightly mentioned in the initial speech about the industries which are going to open up, and there was a focus area, the rare earth minerals, which is the biggest point of a debate going between the multiple countries. That's the area of progress which country wants to make. Pharmaceutical industry, startup ecosystem, particularly with the MSMEs getting a bigger focus area, because that's where the real growth of the population and the focus is being the 35% of our GDP coming from that side. More and more focus is going towards that. And we as exchange, what role we are playing, I'll just share within the coming time.
So Sunil, in your view, it's a hit again or big hit?
Big hit.
Big hit. Wonderful. Okay. So refreshing to hear that. Himani, coming to you, how do you see that in terms of your view of hits or misses? Of course, then we'll delve more into some sectors or some views, but at a broad level, how do you think of the budget?
Firstly, thank you, Dr. Amit. Anil, thank you. And it's an honor to be amongst such esteemed panelists. On the budget, I think as a fund manager, it's also always been our job to summarize and kind of put it together and make like a decisive, investment. I will also try and summarize what everybody here said and try and make it very simple. See, the budget, if you remember the background, last year the taxes were cut, after which we had GST cuts, which made it even more simpler, like liquidity was provided. Post which we also had the mother of all deals with Europe, right? Which the Europe called mother of all deals. We had the budget, and we also, like a day later, we had also the US-India deal, right? So now, if you look at it as a startup, right, like Mr. Sunil said, if you look at it as a startup, right, India is no longer in a survival mode, right? So the base of everything in terms of taxes, GST, the ease of doing business, education, everything has been set, right? And we are in the mode where we are trying to push ahead even in terms of per capita GDP. So what needs to be done now is not survival, it is scaling up, right? So everything that the government has put in the budget today kind of reflects that. It is trying to move up in terms of scaling your startup. So from a Series A funding, you've basically moved to Series B, where it requires a little more scaling in terms of logistics, getting cheaper, which is where all the spending comes in, education being more defined, the IP creators not running after likes, but running after intellectual patenting, and that's where the labs come in. So now the budget is not about survival, it's about scaling up so that India can move to the next phase of growth. So Anil, yes,
Hit or
big
miss?
thumbs up for me.
Okay, so big thumbs up or a big hit. Okay, wonderful. So friends, as we move on to further discussions after this opening round, I urge you, I request you, you also keep taking your notes, keep putting out your view, whether you feel it was a hit or miss, and just jot down 1 or 2 bullet points why, and keep making your views and questions, because after couple of round of our questions, we'll open the floor for questions from you coming across to all the panelists over here. And also, of course, after the panel gets over, if some of the speakers have time and we are having a cup of tea, you will get a chance to meet with them in person. So make sure you make some very sharp and very smart questions ready. Okay, wonderful. Now, friends, thanks for this first round of like hits and misses. Now, moving on a little bit further, and because we are today sitting here in one of the very fine education institute and learning institute. So, Becky, since you are representing one of the countries like most reputed learning institution, How do you feel about this budget and connecting what the budget's focus has been on financial literacy and investor education? And how would you like to connect that with what we are seeing on ground, basically?
Yeah, so I mentioned about the education budget, which, like I said, the government has to solve for multiple things. They have to solve for school education and invest a large amount of resources to primary school education. And then we have to solve for, getting our enrollment ratio higher in the colleges, which is also part of government's initiative. We have, I think, the economic survey said 28% GER or gross enrollment ratio, and they wanted to go to 50%. So government has much bigger priorities to handle. And if you ask me per se, specifically on financial literacy as an allocation, I think it would be within the ambit of the overall NEP, National Education Policy 2020, and where they say that there is coverage also of financial literacy in the schooling system within subjects. But yes, financial literacy as a compulsory subject at school is something I strongly believe in, and I think we
Well, yeah,
need to
that's
move
true.
in that direction. So that's probably out of the purview of the budget, or but at least the understanding is coming that that's required, and government is also thinking on those lines. But the positive part is that even if the budget doesn't have a specific focus, there are a lot of institutions working on financial literacy. Topmost are the regulators, RBI, SEBI, your banking system, IRDA, PFRDA. So SEBI, of course, through NISM, because NISM is SEBI's baby. So we are completely focused on that. So we have been doing a lot of work on financial literacy. Our flagship course, the financial literacy course for Bharat, very high premium course, completely free. So all of you are welcome to see our online.nism.ac.in, our LMS, and enroll for the financial literacy course for Bharat. And we are also pushing it to make it as a mandatory credit course in the university.
Oh,
So
that's
that
very
work is
interesting.
underway.
Yeah.
Yes.
And friends, if you didn't make a note of it, please do keep it in mind. I think it's a very wonderful thing available online. So that's great. I mean, I even I didn't know of it, to be very honest. So.
Yes. And so other institutions are doing a lot of work already in financial literacy, including us.
Right.
And, and there's also thinking which the SEBI chairperson, Sri Tuhin Kanta Pandey recently expressed, that we need to move in a direction of multinodal, multilingual, multi-agency approach.
Okay.
Because you need to go in the different languages. You need to go in different delivery modes. In some places, it may be physical classroom. In some places, it will be online.
Right.
It can be through your desktop. It can be through your mobile. So much is being consumed, through mobile. So that is an approach in which all of us have to move for investor literacy and education. And I think this subject was even posed in the Lok Sabha as a question. And I think the government also said that education, is a concurrent subject. And they expect that even states should take the initiative apart from the central government. But I think on the ground, Anil, lot of institutions, especially the regulators, are very focused on financial literacy.
That's great and very encouraging to hear that. And in some small way, I completely relate to the point you mentioned that it's a concurrent learning. So it can never be that okay, you did this in your some particular curriculum or your course, and then that's the end of it. So that's great and very encouraging to hear how you are seeing that, Becky. Sunil, coming to you, like structurally, like all of us do understand that capital markets, are a key driver of our economy, often called barometer of our economy. And many young friends in the audience here might be aspiring to build a career in the capital markets, or maybe be a part of, let's say, working under a large stock exchange or a broking firm or an asset management firm. So I think everybody's attention definitely always would be around capital markets and representing one of the most Asia's oldest and most respected stock exchange. How do you read the recent changes announced on the STT on the FNO trades. I mean, do you think it's going to be something which will be a dampener for investors at large, or do you feel that well, it's a trading cost and gradually, it's just a matter of time, people will align to it as a part of trading cost and life will continue basically?
First of all, I want to make a disclaimer here. Whatever views I'm going to present here are going to be personal.
No,
not
absolutely.
not of the exchange.
That should have been,
maybe you can switch off the recording also here.
no, that should have been a common thing for all of us, because all of us represent some regulated entities.
The organization.
So the discussion is purely for academic and educational purposes,
yes, so
to give
very,
some
very
feedback.
important. Since I've been a trader myself, I can relate what when the taxes get announced, how that gets incorporated into your trading strategies. If you must have heard my background, I come from the high frequency trading background as well, where every cost typically counts. So whenever this kind of a tax is announced, what market reacts without understanding what is it for me. Typically, if I was a student ना, मैं कहीं भी जाता था तो मैं सोचता था कि यार मैं जा क्यों रहा हूँ वहाँ पे. तो in my previous companies also I used to mention any kind of our meetings, everyone should be very clear at WIIFM. What is in it for me? So that is a principle I follow everywhere. कि मैं कहीं जा रहा हूँ, what is in it for me? So today also when you are hearing us, always think about it. What is it for you? Though I saw some faces, hands being raised from the marketing, finance, some from the art. I saw one guy there. So all of try to relate what is going to affect you in terms of a career, what you're going to aspire to, और ये जनरल ज्ञान लेने के लिए बैठे हम लोग. So ज्ञान लेना, क्योंकि क्वेश्चन तो आंसर तो आएंगे सर की तरफ से, वो भी पढ़ना सुनना पड़ेगा आपको. But at the end of the day, we always think about career aspirations, what I want to do and all. So the current subject, what my friend Anil just now mentioned about the STT per se. The STT is full form क्या है? Security Transaction Tax. Most of you, if you're not traders or if you're not investors, if you not have looked at your contract notes, also if you're an investor, you may not be knowing that also what STT. लेकिन जनरल परसेप्शन क्या है? STT बढ़ गया है तो मार्केट गिर जाएगा.
Correct. Yeah.
That's a human perception.
Yeah.
How is going to affect you as an investor? Zilch on your investments. But market reaction always happens because the people who are going to get affected, they will react. You as an investor into mutual fund or as an investor into stock, it may not affect you at all. That's the first reaction for me as an investor into anything actually. Is it going to increase my overall transaction when I am long-term investor? No. It's not going to affect me as a long-term investor at all. So what is the goal here? The goal here is short-term trading. Whoever does the short-term trading kind of stuff, he needs to be taxed. And tax is in different fashion. STT is something deterring you to do a short term and also move towards a long term investments. That's one way of looking at it purely from that angle. बोले futures पे tax क्यों बढ़ा दिया? There are two components to this. If you don't know about the real world or the trading and all, in derivatives, two instruments are widely traded: futures and options. Futures में अलग taxation बढ़ाया हुआ है, options में अलग taxation बढ़ाया है. Futures में क्या taxation बढ़ाया है? Of the futures, the people are going to get affected. People say my cost of transaction in the future is going to increase. So what is the intent here? Move towards a long-term futures contract so that every month a futures contract roll over karna padta hai. So every month you have to keep on paying that transaction charges if at all you are a monthly investor into futures. My friend Anil's company must be running some arbitrage funds particularly. In arbitrage funds, what happens is they buy in cash market and sell in the futures market. तो जो उनको लॉक प्रॉफिट होता है, that is called a arbitrage gain. And that arbitrage gain में क्या होगा? थोड़ी सी कमती होगी. कमती क्या होगी? because फ्यूचर का marginal cost बढ़ गया है. It's not going to create havoc. It's not going to create havoc. The way people react is my cost will increase by X number of times, but there's marginal cost increase into that. That's one part of the future side. Option side, who are the people who play in options typically? Think about it. Now, people play in options. There are different people play in options using different strategies. And what kind of strategies will have what kind of impact is the guy who runs the strategy is not affecting everybody into that extent what the market is perceiving currently. So what happens is whenever this kind of a taxes are announced, first knee-jerk reaction is, oh, ये taxes बढ़ गया तो कुछ सब कुछ खत्म हो जाएगा. No. Market gets adjusted in terms of pricing of those options which are traded in the market, and it moves along because that you incorporate into your cost of transaction when you buy or sell. That is the way markets get adjusted in terms of pricing of the options. So my reaction to this kind of a stuff is markets gets adjusted because different people have got different intent for putting money into markets at different tenures. Is it going to change your profitability completely? If I ask Himani, she will say, I don't sell my stock for 2 years. Will it change for her life for that? Not at all.
Certainly.
She already mentioned about there are so many things which have happened in the markets, perspective of markets in terms of GST rationalization, corporate tax तो पहले बहुत rationalize कर चुके हैं. There are n number of things which have been already done last year. In income tax, such a big relief which happened. और consumer durables का stock बढ़ने लगे थे उसमें. So what I'm trying to say, there are so many positive things which have happened. We just forget for one small thing which is not relevant to you as an investor, but we want to understand. From you as a student point of view, please do understand everything and go deep into that. Don't go by the headlines. We always get carried away with the headlines. Tax बढ़ गया तो सब कुछ ऐसा हो जाएगा, ऐसा नहीं. Please understand who is going to impact or what. So that's what my perspective.
Very, very good learning that don't get impacted by the headlines. Now, Sunil sir was trying to understand that there are some very large institutions who use derivatives for investment strategy. But Sunil sir, maybe we might also get some surprise because many young friends also here. So friends, if without anybody recording it, but just a show of hands, how many of us over here, how many of you over here might be having some account on some Zerodha, Grow, etc., and doing some F&O trading? अरे 3:30 बज गया, मेरा loss cut करो, profit book करो. How many of us over here? Very few. नहीं, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. क्या बात कर रहे हो? नहीं.
I think you should shut off the recording volume.
But I think in some way, that's good. Thanks. Put your hand up. Thanks for being such a participative audience. I think in some small way, it's a good learning that don't follow headlines. Try to dig deeper. That's our role as a good analyst. Second, as a learning, if you are a large institutional investor and you are using derivative contracts as a part of a very robust strategy, trying to make some money, then yes, certainly it's a very useful tool. You must use it. And of course, it helps as a part of the market ecosystem to make it more efficient. But if you are a young student, if you are a young professional working in some other field, do try to keep this in mind and create a different focus area for how you are going to use your derivative contracts, please. That's a personal suggestion request from my side. Of course, nobody is going to listen to that. So I'm quickly going to move to the next question.
If I can add to what Anil is saying,
Yes.
even on options, if you are trading, try and understand the option Greeks. Understand the Black-Scholes model. Understand what you are trading, because options as an instrument also, if you're good with maths, you could use it to your advantage. But the underlying is understand what does a premium made up of, right, sir?
Yes, absolutely right. That's a great point. Yeah. So if you are anyways going to make some investment, often you will land up making good money, I'm sure. But sometimes if you're going to lose some money, then make sure that that money which you're losing, consider it as a tuition fee to learn about the option Greeks and understand more about maybe some valuation metric of how Black-Scholes valuation model is used, basically. Great. Okay. So staying with you, Himani, and moving to the next question, friends. And friends, as I said, please keep noting your questions also. You also get a chance to question any of the friends over here whom, as of now, I have the privilege to question whatever I want to ask. So you can also keep noting your questions. Ask anything, whatever you like, basically. Okay. So Himani, I mean, you're one of the sharpest minds running, portfolio in one of the respected PMS houses. In terms of your view, how do you think of, let's say, you already gave a nice context of GST Bachat Mahotsav, mother of all deals, etc., etc. But do you think that with the current situation after the budget, has the Indian capital markets or Indian equity markets specifically, rather than capital markets, has it become more attractive for long-term investors to consider allocating their funds, or is it that people are aligning themselves to more global markets, whether it's some person sitting in India thinking of global equities, or if it is some large global investor who can allocate money freely in any other geographies? So how do you think the relative attractiveness of Indian equity as an asset class has been after this budget, especially?
Sure. Thanks for the question. And very kind for the nice words. Just on equity markets, see what happens in the equity markets is every time there is uncertainty, right? It shakes the market, right? And right now we are seeing every weekend there is some news that comes up. It could be, Trump talking about, not doing a deal with India, bringing the tariffs up. Recently, we got the tariffs back from 50 to 18%. Recently, there was news about the Russian and I don't know that it's not verified yet, but, again, Putin and a Trump meeting. So what is happening currently is there is a geopolitical shift that is happening in the world, right? And that is creating a lot of volatility in the market. Now, if you've been in the markets long enough, you know that volatility is a part of the game. It is not that markets have never been volatile. They've always been volatile. And volatility gives you better opportunities to invest for the longer term. So I do believe that the way we've been structured, so if you see political stability in our country, that is the best. What that does is when you have the same policies continuing, being taken forward. Like, for example, currently the data center tax relief that the government has given, it's a 22 years tax relief, right? It's a big proposal that the government has gone ahead and done in the 22 years, right? Which means that you can set up a data center in India for the next and get a tax relief, right? And that's because of the political stability that is we are seeing in our country today. You see a few other things like the 10,000 crore SME, the fund that they've set up, right? Now, what does that do? It is earlier what the government used to do is give tax concessions, give subsidies, and but what the problem there was that once you do that, the banks were not ready to lend because the risk appetite there increases. What if the entrepreneur doesn't do well? Now, when you have this fund which is there, the government is willing to partner with the startup to, kind of grow and, in semiconductors, in AI, in biologics. So what the government is now trying to do is facilitate the scaling up. He's saying get the foreign money to come into India, set up data centers. It is trying to get Indian startups to become bigger. It is trying to give the PLI schemes. If you've seen electronic component PLI, which has been raised in this budget from 22,900 to almost 40,000 crores, which means you don't want to be just a assembler anymore in our country. You want to design and then assemble, right? So the electronic manufacturing space as well. So, the way I look at the budget, especially this year, and the way the government has been progressing over the years, is it's trying to make the country, from a micro cap to a small cap to a mid cap to now becoming more of a blue chip, right? Where we are becoming more self-reliant when it comes to defense, it comes to electronic component manufacturing, it comes to data center, it comes to renewable energy, reducing our import bills as well.
Yeah.
So what we are doing is laying the landscape for the next 3 to 5 to 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So if you are in the equity markets,
Mm.
which is basically should be looked as a long-term asset,
Yeah.
and investing for the long term, this, volatility in the market has to be looked as the best time.
Opportunity.
Is an opportunity to invest. And we've seen that, right? We've seen that in the SIP flows.
Yeah.
We're seeing the household savings, which is still a part of the equity that goes from household savings to equity, is still a single digit, which is much higher in other countries. But it's still very small in India. So that we're seeing growing. We're seeing more, there's more participation from women in the workforce, which is another thing, so, I read some report which says the next working age population, the highest proportion of that will come from India. And in that also, it includes men and women. So if we want to be taking a big part of that, of that share of the new job creation that will happen, both men and women have to work, and which is where Ladki Behan comes in, right? Women actually support education for their kids, for themselves. So I think a lot of ways government is laying the groundwork for us to be a blue chip.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, and in a very subtle manner, how the capital market ecosystem is transitioning. And maybe it was just a term that Himani coined out because her mic was blue in shade, but I like the way in which she transitioned us as an economy, as an investment opportunity from a micro cap to a small cap to a blue chip. So wonderful. Thanks for that. Sanju sir, I'll come to you in a minute. But in the meantime, one more quick show of hands. And like how we spoke about in the earlier question, that how many of us are using F&O to do some trading, and how Imani articulated the point about long-term structural investing through SIPs. So very quick show of hands. How many of us over here, listen carefully, how many of us over here have worked earlier before you started your current learning, or are currently working and getting some stipend, some earning? How many of us broadly? And how many of you are making some investment into using a SIP, basically, instead of using some derivative contracts? Little bit few hands. Okay, that's great. Encouraging to see that. But I urge you, I request you that do consider both of these carefully while doing the trading in options and futures. You had to pay some tuition fees to the market to learn Greeks, etc. While doing SIP, you don't need to pay any fees, no need to learn any big lessons or anything like that. Just basic, simple compounding and basic, simple first principles of investing. Like, whether you look at current investment gurus or gurus of investment gurus like Warren Buffett's guru, Ben Graham, in his book, The Intelligent Investor, has written that, this dollar cost averaging or so-called SIP in Indian context in simple way has been a very powerful investment opportunity. Okay. Well, Sanju sir, coming to you, and sir, you have been a proficient, analyst of policies of budgets. You have been very visible in media and news. Sir, how do you think of these two tax changes that you touched upon briefly, like earlier in the discussion, that one is about the MAT, which is for the large corporates and giving them comfort to put in the money for the next 10, 15, 20 years to become a blue chip. And second is, if you can also touch upon how the individual side, like the recent change in the sovereign gold bond. So if you can share some insight on that, sir.
Sure. First, I would like to add one point in that earlier question
Yes,
on
sir.
education.
Yes, sir.
Because ma'am told you some perspective, but from budget point of view, two policy decisions. One girl hostel in every district.
Yeah. That was
Definitely,
good.
it is something which is welcome.
Yeah.
Second, 10,000 guides in 20 tourist locations. 10,000 guides will be upskilled. So especially it will help to those who are now 12th standard passed or just graduate. They can go for this job of guide, because it's normally a question for those who are now underprivileged, in the sense those who are not so skilled. What to do? They're jobless. And therefore, if this program of the government of teaching or upskilling 10,000 guides in a tourist places, then it will help in that education. The another area of STT, before I go to my question, is about the SEBI has come out with a whenever you open a trading terminal, first you have to acknowledge that that 90% of the speculators lose money in F&O. And you have to first say, yes, I know it, I acknowledge it, and then only you are allowed to trade. Right. Whichever screen you are, I'm an investor, so I know that, even though I have not done any trading in the F&O, never. But my experience as a chartered accountant, as a tax practitioner, as a tax filer, is that not 90%, 100% those who trade lose money. Why 90%, 100%? Because they come to me for setting up their losses of F&O against their business income. They come to me for carrying forward their losses against the business income. So I see 100% lose. And therefore, if it is a hedging instrument, basically, it is not a casino. So I would recommend not to have at all F&O trading by ordinary person. गुरु बनने के पहले एकलव्य मत बनो, अपना थंब मत गवाओ. थंब भी गया तो गया सब. तो एकलव्य नहीं बनना है आज के जमाने में. F&O trading is a F&O, is a eklavya. Guru asking for a thumb. And I see, no, don't do that. If at all you want to invest for long term, as rightly said by Sunil sir. Very long term investment gives you extraordinary return. Only market will give you, definitely. So STT is only a part, increase only for those who are trading, not for investors. And no statutory warning, cigarette smoking is injurious to health. STT statutory warning was not given, it was raised. That's what I can say about STT.
Good point.
Now coming to your main question about a MAT. What is a MAT? MAT is misunderstood by many. In income tax, there is a very traditional system of giving exemptions, deductions, subject to certain investments, certain preconditions. And there was a scope for reducing your tax liability, especially even for corporates. Industry specific deductions were given where you can reduce your tax. So your profit and loss account profit and your taxable profit may be different. In profit and loss account, there is a profit of say 10 lakhs rupees, my company. But when you calculate taxable income, my profit is zero because I have enjoyed those benefits. The MAT was nothing but, even though your taxable profit is zero, pay some 15% tax on your book profit. Now you will ask that why should I pay? Because already my tax calculation according to your law, the government's law is zero. It's just an advance tax. Today your profit is zero as far as taxable profit is concerned is zero, but tomorrow exemption may go or depreciation may go down, and you will be liable to pay tax tomorrow in coming years. At that time, this profit, this MAT paid earlier will be allowed as a credit, as a deduction. So let us say my profit is 10 lakhs, taxable profit is zero. I have paid 15%, that is 1,50,000 as MAT. And then in that case, tomorrow my tax liability comes out to be 1,50,000. I need not pay 1,50,000 again because already I have paid MAT. That was the point. Now what the lawmakers say, they have shifted from old regime of the tax to corporates to a new regime. What was old regime? 30% plus surcharge taxation for companies. New regime, 30% was slashed to 22%, straight away down. But of course, with surcharge. But exemption deductions were removed. Now government wants that exemption deduction should not be there. The company should move to a new tax regime, a simple tax regime where directly what is your profit, you pay a tax without any exemption deduction, but pay lesser than what you would have paid earlier in old regime. And in that case, if you select new regime, there is no MAT because there are no exemptions. So MAT is not there. Now here, what the change was made to incentivize the companies to move to a new tax regime, the law now says that if you stay in old regime, whatever MAT you are paying, the credit will not be allowed to you. So it's a final tax liability. And for incentivizing that, the MAT was reduced from 15% to 14%. So if I want to remain in old tax regime, I need to keep in mind that this 14% is my expenditure, my liability, always. I am not allowed to pass on that to next financial year or thereafter till 15 years. Unless, of course, one option is given. Move to the new tax regime, whatever MAT credit that lying, advance tax, 25% will be allowed to be set off. Balance 75%, of course, next year. So government indirectly by changes in the MAT, nothing done. Government is incentivizing companies to shift to a new tax regime, which the government is advocating even for individuals.
Great. So in effect, it means that, like we spoke earlier, don't go by headlines. In a way, it's not something very negative.
Absolutely, it is not negative.
It's a comfort for long term.
It is just a procedural change. It's a government's intention to create a new tax regime where the rates are going down. And probably you may be aware, many of you may be aware, the manufacturing companies who started manufacturing after 2017, they were given 15% tax.
Right.
15% tax. For our student, for individual, in 1971, the tax rate was 94%. Can you believe? Tax rate was 94% in 1971. Further, it went down in 1996 by Chidambaram to around 30%. And for individual, the rates have further gone down last year substantially. First 24 lakhs of rupees, the tax rate is 12%, average rate of tax. So where it was 94% in 1971, in 2025, it was 12% for first 24 lakh. Substantial reduction. So government intention that those honest taxpayers who want to pay tax honestly, they are incentivized. The tax rates have gone down. And my experience for last 30 years, more than that, I have seen this. My clients say pay tax. My earlier clients used to say save tax.
Save tax. Yeah. Great point. Yeah.
Or evade tax. Now the chartered accountants, they are the questions. No, you pay tax, get rid of it. So this is what the government trying to do. A second part of the question, very briefly I say, is about the ease of filing returns, especially for those taxpayers. Every procedure now the government wants to simplify. One simple example is a form 15H, 15G, which is given by especially all taxpayers whose tax is deducted by the banks, by the companies while giving dividend. Suppose I have a demat account and I have 15 companies. Everywhere I had to give 15G form, 15H form, requesting company not to deduct my tax because my tax liability is less than 12 lakhs. My income is less than 12 lakhs and I may not be liable to pay tax. So unnecessarily, my tax would have been deducted. Now instead of giving 15G and 15H to every company, you have to give 15G only to a depository, demat account, and they will do the needful. So the taxpayers' hassle has gone down substantially. Instead of paying taxes, no, on 31st July, every taxpayer was filing return late or no that day, and there was a lot of traffic on the website. Now there is a segregation, staggering. Those who are salaried and pensioners and non-business income, they can file up to 31st July. Those who are having business income, they need to prepare a profit and loss account, balance sheet. So little more time is given, 31st August. And if you have audit, definitely audit companies and tax audit, then the more time is given up to October. So I would list n number of such processes or the procedures this time. The government's intention that the taxpayers ease so that they don't find it inconvenient to pay tax. Rates have already gone down. Now it's your turn, taxpayer, to do something. We are also making the procedure very simple. That is how
Great,
what
great.
I can say.
Thanks. So friends, we have a couple of more questions, but I just want to take a quick pause and go around the room to ask for some questions from the audience on the ground. So any of you have some thoughts, comments, suggestions till now, like what we spoke in the beginning? Keep noting your questions. But quickly, anybody has some questions to raise to any of the panelists? Anybody, guys? And maybe one mic can go to. I'm conscious of the time allocated to me, and hence I just wanted to, in between, take a few questions from the audience so that we feel more involved with the participant. Yes, please go ahead, sir.
Hi, I'm Akshat and I'm from engineering department. So my question was for Mr. Anil Ghilani. Mainly retail investors are worried seeing small cap and mid caps fluctuate with large caps getting high. So what would be your guidance to the SIP and long-term mutual fund investors in this phase?
It was a great question, and maybe I preempted in some way when I mentioned earlier. See, structurally, please sit down, no problem. Aram se aap baithiye. See, structurally, how I think of it is that to try and navigate market volatility in a little bit smoother manner, like you very nicely mentioned, many people use SIP, like a systematic investment plan. In simple way, it's nothing but a dollar cost averaging or rupee cost averaging, which many years back in 1950s, Ben Graham, so-called, even our today's investment guru, Warren Buffett, looks up to him as his teacher or his investment guru. So if as an investor, you are thinking of recent corrections or volatility, I would feel if you are a medium to long-term investor through an SIP, maybe these kind of corrections could be celebrations in some form, because during that correction, the NAV per unit is down. So you will be able to collect more number of units and add to your portfolio. So I would feel that, of course, it's very subjective based on each individual person's risk return objective and what they are investing for. But otherwise, I would feel that it would be prudent to continue investing. And like Himani also mentioned, that thinking of it as an investment in a small cap stock or a small cap portfolio in India as a small cap economy, which we feel is going to soon become a blue chip economy, I think it would be a prudent way to continue allocating your money. But thanks, great question. Yes, sir. Sir. Please. Sir.
See, we are hearing an interesting discussion. Somebody asked a question about SIP. What I feel in financial market is that investors expect too much from a short term and too little from a long term. That is what has been the reality. And I don't think so, because the problem is that, equity is a unique asset class. Okay, worldwide, equity is a unique asset class which people prefer buying at a higher price and selling at a lower price. It's nothing but a fear and greed psychosis. You ask about SIP. There is one fund called Kothari Pioneer Blue Chip Fund. आप शायद पैदा भी नहीं होंगे तभी. It was started on 1st of December 1993. Everybody is discussing here about returns, taxes, short-term gains. If you are a equity investor, a SIP investor since 1st December 1993. I'm tracking that fund and being an investor also in that fund because everything is off the record here. Shiva Subramaniam and Sukumar were the two heroes that time. What kind of a philosophy they had, I don't know. In 1993, nobody ever thought about what market is. I don't know how many of us were there. I was doing my MBA that time. And that was my first investment from my SIP, that is summer internship. Today, what would be the value of that investment? Can anybody tell me? 1,000 rupees per month. Today is 386th month of that scheme. The scheme is now Franklin India Large Cap Fund. Management, one of my dear friend again. Any idea? We are talking about taxes, you are talking about impact of budget, you are talking about anything and everything. 1,000 rupees per month, 386 months, which gives you 3,86,000 of investment. Any guess what is the value of today? How much? 1.5 CR. Anybody else? The exact value is 7 crore and 97 lakhs. Hey, I can show the account statement.
No, sir. We completely believe and so kind of you. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Budgetial impact comes.
Ji, sir. Ji, absolutely.
Investment hai.
Yes, sir.
That too for last 32 years, you take 50% tax also.
Correct. Yeah. No, that's a great and a great live example of the power of compounding and disciplined investing.
And various people managing the funds.
Right, sir.
With Harshad Mehta.
With so many scams and so many ups and downs.
Having their impacts.
Bilkul, sir.
And ministers.
Yes, 6 finance ministers over this time. Great. Thank you so much, sir. A great hand, friends, everybody, for sir being so sporting to explain a concept which is so very important, basically, So thank you for that, sir. Greatly appreciate. Okay, friends, any other questions? Yes, madam. In the second row.
Hello. Hello. I am Jayashree Gurung from MMS first year. I wanted to ask CS sir from the tax perspective. While the budget claims relief for the middle class, but the real adjusted income suggests otherwise. So, is the government moving from direct tax to indirect silent taxation?
No, nothing. Absolutely wrong. See, the government's intention last year itself was made clear. I think Himani ma'am also explained very clearly that last year the big relief was already given in the form of income tax reduction. If you have income of 1 lakh per month, you're not to pay any tax. So that's a big relief already given. Even if your income is little more, the tax rates have gone down, tax slabs have been readjusted. So income tax relief is already given. In September 22nd, the GST relief is also given. Before GST in 2017, 1st July 2017, what was the rate of tax, indirect tax? Do you know? VAT was 15%. Excise duty was maybe 8% to 10%. Octroi was 5% in Maharashtra and Mumbai. So total tax was 32%. So 32% was the tax, indirect tax, 60% was the income tax, almost 90% was taken up. Now, if your tax rates have gone down, definitely who's going to benefit? A common man. Now, you said it's not adjusted every year. That adjustment was made last year by enhancing the limit from 7 lakh to 12 lakh suddenly. So every year we were expecting some small relief in the form of that inflation adjustment, in the form of standard deduction to salaried employees from 75,000 to 1 lakh. We were expecting, but it didn't happen. It's okay. Last year, it was beyond my expectation. What the relief was given. Extraordinary expect. See, 24 lakhs of income, you are paying only 3 lakhs of tax, which was much, much more earlier. So there is a considerable reduction happening almost every year since last few years in income tax. And almost 3.5 crore taxpayers were there in 2014. Now they have gone up to 9 crores out of 140. The tax collection is going up 20% every year. Only last year it had not gone up because government knew about that because the rates have gone down, collection will be affected definitely. But otherwise, it's not at all that there is a taxation shift. The shift is on a better side. And the more better shift from the government's point of view, more compliance, more willingness to pay tax. I have been advocating tax, doing this tax practice for 3 decades. And my observation is that people are now willing to pay small amount of tax. You know, where service tax initially came in 1994, it was 5% only on 3 services. When it was raised to 18%, definitely compliance affected. And therefore, in my opinion, the tax, we see favorable things happening in last few years, and it may continue also. Thank you.
Thanks. Great question, but good angle you got into the picture. That are we seeing some tax change from direct to indirect? Very good. Thanks for the question. Thank you. Anybody else quickly?
If I can just add one point,
I'll
I'll tell you why we are all so pro taxes. If you look at our gross tax to GDP ratio, it's about 11.7%. Okay. Globally, the World Bank recommends that your tax to GDP ratio has to be upwards of 15%. Right? And everywhere globally, the tax to GDP is upwards of 15%. In India, we are still at 11.7%. Why is that? I mean, of course, a few people like the 9 crore are actually the ones bearing the brunt of the tax. There's a large untapped economy which is not paying taxes, which needs to increase. And when that happens, this 11.7 goes up to 15%. And which is what, I mean, the World Bank also recommends. So we are actually we are paying less than what the global averages are. So actually, the problem is more the under penetration where lesser number of people are paying taxes than the taxation per se.
One more element which I would, with Anil's time, I know
Yeah,
time
yes,
is a
yes.
constraint, but
Yes,
it's
sir.
very useful. The
Bilkul.
tax base every year, government tries to increase tax base. Why this 9 crore? Why not 19 crore? And this year, this budget, there is a provision. What the provision? Those who are abroad now came to India. They have foreign assets. They had not declared those assets. Amnesty scheme has been announced, where you can declare your foreign assets, your foreign income, and you'll not be penalized, or there will be a small fee for that. So government tries now probably last few years we see the annual information statement made available on the website, which gives you every information, financial information is available on the website. Now artificial intelligence is being used. I can give you a number of examples. Due to time constraint, I cannot give, where the department is now practically locating people who are tax evaders and sending the notices. In December, they sent more than 14,000 notices to those who were suspected evaders to the tax. And that's why the tax base is also being increased every year due to information available with the department, with processing being made easy, and therefore and reducing the tax rates and tax slabs.
Right.
So this is on the right track, I would say, definitely.
Okay, thanks. And I think, friends, sometimes some of the questions that we pose and sometimes the kind of response we get, we have to be very careful to catch on some words. So for example, what I caught on to, of course, one is the tax and direct versus indirect, etc. But one very interesting thing which came up, that a lot of AI is being used for a lot of analytics, even by the taxation department. So many of us who are thinking of our career goals in the future, see, because net end of the day, let's be practical. After this today's session, friends over here are all going to go back to their classrooms and to their studies and to their focus on your near-term career goals, right? Everybody with me? Focusing on your jobs and careers. बजट डिकोडिंग, ठीक है, मैडम ने बोल दिया सर यहाँ पे ये लोग ने कुछ डिकोड कर दिया, मेरा काम तो हो गया, मुझे तो मेरे जॉब के लिए इंटरेस्ट है. So I need to always keep catching on those relevant things and making a mental note of that in my mind, right? Everybody, that's what I would just like to highlight. Before I come to another questions from the audience, one interesting thing I wanted to, and maybe Sunil, if I may just request you to share some context and like how you articulated in some way that again, maybe it's about the organization you represent. So kindly, it is a very personal view that how, like as a large exchange, various awareness drives, various educational awareness, which you feel will help enhance the stability and the regulatory focus on institutionalizing capital markets, such that maybe in the next couple of years, there would be much more career progression and career growth opportunities for the young friends, basically?
So a couple of things, maybe some statistics will be relevant for you. The way markets were earlier in terms of the kind of people who used to come to markets and invest. Some people raised hands for trading. Couple of questions from my friend Sanjeev about the options and all. So again, disclaimer here, I'm not at all here to promote any options and derivatives. All kind of disclaimers. I have to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
So I'll give some statistics in terms of numbers, the kind of new drove of investors which are coming in, and then I'll answer the questions what exchanges are doing. I think my friend also talked about the investor awareness kind of stuff which SEBI is doing, and we as exchanges do that. I'll answer questions to that. So I'll give some numbers which are very relevant for you, some statistics. I think Dr. Oak talked about 1993 when he started his doing SIP and all. From when the market started opening up from 1990 onwards types until 2020, it was 30 years. It took 30 years for India to get 3.8 crore investors till 2020. So I always talk about AC and BC or DC jo bolte aap log. So pre-COVID era and post-COVID era is very different in the Indian capital markets. That's the big change.
Yeah.
All of you are the post-COVID era actually investors for me. Post-COVID era is very different than the pre-COVID era. I have spent time in broking. I have spent time in wealth management myself. उस समय करीब 1-1.5 करोड़ के आसपास इन्वेस्टर होते तो हम लगता है बड़ा मार्केट हो गया. And with the 120 crore kind of a base, some 2 crore के आसपास 2013-14 when I moved out of broking and went into the HFT and all that stuff. So what we used to think is कि यार investor base बढ़ेगा कैसे? And at that time, my friend mentioned about Zerodha and all. I used to deal with them at that time also because I come from broking and Bangalore was my base company. So how those companies got germinated in India in terms of fintech, tech infrastructure. When we say about the very strong digital infrastructure of the India is really thriving the Indian capital markets and the banking system penetration. इस आप सुनते हो ना यार पेमेंट स्पेस में इतने लोग आ गए पेमेंट स्पेस में ये हो रहा है you may not realize in your own life how you are digitally aligned in terms of payment space. You must not realize. I'm sure I was talking to Dr. Oak also because we were some common friends. मतलब हम लोग सिर्फ आज तो कोई भी हाथ में कैश लेके घूमता ही नहीं है. Even though I travel to US, I'm sure everybody is traveling there.
Yeah.
वहाँ अभी भी coins चलते हैं. Trust me, अभी भी coins चलते हैं वहाँ पे. India is far advanced in terms of payment space. Nobody can match us. And that integration of payment space in terms of the overall banking financial infrastructure has made even capital markets much more easier. आज के दिन में आप लोग पैसा ट्रांसफर करते हो आपको रियलाइज भी नहीं होता कि नेक्स्ट सेकंड में आपका पैसा उसके ब्रोकिंग अकाउंट में दिखता है. मतलब आई एम श्योर माय फ्रेंड सिटिंग आउट हियर वी आर मच मोर ओल्डर इन आवर करियर्स. हम लोग को टाइम लगता था हर करने के लिए काम. अकाउंट खोलने के लिए हमको करीब करीब 3-3 हफ्ते लग जाते थे.
वन मंथ
लग जाता था. उसके बाद पहले साइन करके भेजते थे. वो फॉर्म फिजिकल में साइन मैच नहीं होगा. बैंकिंग से जाकर ठप्पा लगवा के आओ. मतलब इट यूज्ड टू बी सो पेनफुल इन टर्म्स ऑफ ओपनिंग अ ब्रोकिंग अकाउंट. मतलब यूज्ड टू बी लाइक से लगता है यार मेमोट टास्क ब्रोकिंग अकाउंट मिल गया तो उसके बाद ट्रेडिंग चालू करने के लिए ब्रोकर को कॉल करो और वो प्राइस आपको बराबर नहीं दिखेगा. मतलब यूज्ड टू बी लाइक से वेरी डिफरेंट टास्क एट दैट टाइम. Those things have got a mammoth change. Why I'm giving you a pre-COVID era and post-COVID era is because during this just couple of years back, before the COVID, a lot of fintech platforms started emerging. Zerodha is one of the name which Anil mentioned. There are more like other platforms started emerging like Grow and multiple broker platforms which are emerged now. Now there are umpteen number of them, Grow being the largest now. It has overtaken Zerodha also in terms of number accounts. Though Grow started as a mutual fund distribution platform, then they entered into broking and all. Why I'm giving you the pre-COVID kind of stuff at this stage is 3.8 crore investors were there in India. It took 30 years. And last 5 years, from 3.8 crores to we are more than 14 crore investors. So you can think about it, the kind of pace which is happening on the Indian market. Every month, 20 lakh new clients are opening accounts in India. 20 lakh, not a small number.
Yeah.
And this 20 lakh, think about the age. I always believe in demographics. Who are the people who are looking at investing in India? One is to the mutual funds. I'm sure Anil will have better data than me. But I'm talking about the broking accounts in terms of demographics. When they open the account, more than 70% of the accounts are below the age of, more than 75 to 78%, I'll say 75% of the accounts are below the age of 40 years. So between the age of 30 and 40 years, typically जब आप लोग घुसोगे अभी jobs वगैरह में, typically you start saving, 2-4 साल तो मजे करोगे क्रेडिट कार्ड पे और कार वार खरीदोगे आप लोग जाके. We spend because when we earn, we start spending and all stuff. And we start saving later. I'll not give the philosophy of Warren Buffett and all. Typical human mindset is like that. But these days, people are coming at the very younger, early age in terms of savings. That's a difference in philosophy. What we are observing between the age of 20 and 30 years. काफी students कई लोग ने हाथ खड़ा किया. And though even my daughter is there, I save for her and all at this stage. She's also in college. But similarly, I saw some students raising their hands. Between the age of 20 and 30 years, almost like say 15% of that accounts are there. 10 to 15% of accounts are in that range. यानी कि 24-25 साल में आप कमाना शुरू करते हो, typically after MBA and all that, and you start saving at the early stage. Because many of you guys sitting around here will not have liability of your parents because they already arrived in life partly. You start saving early. हमारे केस में क्या था कि यार पहले घर लेना है, पहले वो लेना है. आजकल घर लेना भी लोग नहीं सोचते हैं. They start saving through the mutual funds and SIP and all. So the background to this is the very young age population is there in terms of demographics which has started saving early, and they are going to remain in the long-term investment cycle. So India has got a very advantageous demographics which is going to remain for the long-term investment. Forget about the trading and all that. Dr. Oak gave the right example in terms of long-term 386 months kind of money what he could, and he was a systematic guy in terms of holding back his SIPs. I think somebody asked about SIP in case of small cap fund, volatility and all that.
Yeah.
Trust me, I think he gave right example. Doesn't matter. Remain invested. And what part of your money is going to investment in that case? So coming back to the question which was there onto the investor education program and all that. So exchanges have got a fiduciary responsibility to educate the market. And on ground till now in the current financial year, till November का data मेरे पास था, we had done some 12,000 ground पे जाके investor education program was done by BSE alone. Other exchanges also there, and other exchanges are also there. They do investor education programs along with the SEBI mandate is there clear cut. We'd go and educate with so many people coming into the investment markets. You think about if their education is not there, as Sanjeev was rightly mentioning about beware kind of a that is a SEBI mandate for the brokers to beware you. But at the end of the day, financial literacy, I think one of the topic which was discussed by that. But as exchange, we do an empty number of like 20-25,000 के आसपास टारगेट रहता है हमारा साल का करने का. Different tier 3 tier 4 cities. Now unlike the पहले हम लोग से मेट्रोज वालों को मालूम था कैपिटल मार्केट क्या होता है. आई एम श्योर Anil and his team must be doing n number of programs in tier 3 tier 4 cities in a bigger way. So a lot of work is happening on the ground actually.
No, thanks for sharing that context. So in summary, friends, like a lot of focus has been there on institutionalizing the capital markets, the money markets, which will ensure that there is a robust platform for all of you to try and align your career growth in that. I mean, that was the key context. Okay. Any other quick questions? Otherwise, I have one question from my side to Becky. Yes, madam. Yes, please. The madam in the second row. Or anybody else. Who else has? Okay, you already have a mic. Please go ahead. Just wait for a second and let the mic in the meantime come over here. Somebody, please give it to her.
Hello.
And then we'll close out. We are very close to time. So, her sir, kindly guide me if we are going out of time. But yeah, boliye. Yes, sir.
Hello everyone. My name is Vedant. I'm from BMS department, and my question is to Sunil sir. Sir, what is according to you the main reason that STT has been increased? Is it because of speculative retail investors, or what do you think about increase in STT? Because I think that it is invalid to restrain retail investors from speculative markets or derivatives in very specific. And if people lose in derivative markets, why isn't there any kind of education, formal education before investing or trading in derivative?
No, I think that's what we spoke at in very great length and articulating. But okay, maybe I'll allow you.
What's your good name, man?
Vedant.
Vedant. Do you trade?
Yes, sir. I trade.
I think my colleague really mentioned about. Do you understand Greeks of the options?
Yes, alpha, gamma. Yes.
You know, alpha is not there in the options here.
Gamma, vega, theta. Yes.
So I'm not here to educate you about the options and all that stuff.
Yes.
So I don't know about way you trade and what is the objective to trade. So I don't want to get in deep into that. So the interesting is not about discouraging anything and all that. So if you look at, I clearly mentioned about going towards a long-term kind of investment is something the objective. I'm not sure whether you heard about the SEBI's chairman's many kind of a speech where he clearly mentioned about we are also focusing on terms of building a lot of liquidity to the cash market segment per se. And also long-term investment is a philosophy. We heard about the benefits of long-term investment per se, what Dr. Oak mentioned about it. So to answer to your question in terms of there can be many objectives of increasing STT at the end of days revenue. What's the amount more revenue?
No, revenue is not the objective. Nirmala Sitharaman, after the budget, she specifically say revenue is not the objective, but it should act as a deterrent only. And that's what I also in my earlier
But sir, I
discussion.
think, and like you said, you already articulated very beautifully earlier that
Yes,
Vedant,
yes.
it is not really about that nobody's stopping. It's just small.
It's
cost
like a
increase. It's a small cost.
statutory warning on the cigarette.
That's all. It's
It's
not
that's way. If you
something very
want to
earth-shattering.
have a cigarette with higher taxes, you can have.
But with that, I urge you, please stay back for some time in the tea break and pick up their brains a little bit more. But let's move on from this question.
Sure. So,
Yes, please, madam.
Anil, I would like to just clarify. Actually, maybe I could not complete actually that.
Sure. Okay.
So interestingly, I don't know whether you go deep into the subject about the STT per se. What part of your cost it constitutes in your investment?
Correct.
Trading and all
Great
this?
point. Yeah.
So that's something very important. So
It's a
revenue is not
fractional
something.
cost.
It's, I wanted to complete that part actually. So revenue is something which is from your angle actually looking. And so ultimately, people get burnt out by the smaller cost of your trading actually and all that.
Correct.
And you want to imbibe that much into your head, your trading gets hampered. So please take away from that. Just he rightly mentioned. I don't know about what part of your overall investment you invest into through the options or through the futures at this stage. I don't know about your background. I think one of the questions you rightly mentioned about why they don't deter. Why they don't deter. While you open your broking account, I'm sure you pass through tick marks. Have you read that KYC?
Correct.
When you do that KYC? I'm sure you must not read that. If you would read that, you would not have invested. So my point is we try to put onus of the responsibility on somebody else of our own risk in that case. You have to understand your own risk, then only invest. That's the first philosophy of the investment.
Perfectly.
So don't put the onus of your risk onto somebody else. I was not aware.
No,
So-
also in summary, like as we
Yeah.
spoke, it's not that change in that number also is so dramatic that it can cause you to have any kind of a deterrence. Okay, let's quickly move on because we are very much short of time. The madam here on the third row, and then we'll try to conclude. Yes, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Mahua Trivedi from FIMMS. So my question is that many central government employees were having their eyes on some update on the 8th Pay Commission, which is about to start from Jan 1st, 2026. But this budget saw no mention about it. So could you help us understand whether this delay is strategic or whether we can see some long-term impact of the arrears that are to be paid in the FY28 budget?
See, I think great question. You can sit down, madam. I think sometimes what happens, the pay commission has their own schedule and rationale of announcements. Not always it is aligned with the annual budget. This is a little bit different. Pay commission also has an involvement of various state government level payouts. So let's wait and watch how it goes. But it's a very, very interesting context how you mentioned that despite the fact that there is a fiscal push or a stimulus given in the form of the GST Bachat Mahotsav a couple of months back, which will encourage and motivate the people to spend more money. The pay commission related announcement also, I think, would be a very important boost. Maybe they will try to time it in a little bit more prudent manner so that there is not too much of sweetener at one point of time. Like we just spoke about GST Bachat Mahotsav, mother of all deals, big hit of budget, etc., etc. One more sweetener might make the coffee too sweet to digest. So maybe it will be just a matter of time and it will definitely come through. Okay. So, Harsh sir, are we good on, how are we doing on time? And thus, I'd just like to wrap up. So, sorry, one or two questions more. Okay. So, while anything comes up from there, but I just wanted to, I couldn't resist asking one question from my side to Becky, because we are in this very, very, how should I say, state of the art auditorium. I'm here for maybe fourth or fifth time, and the orange color and the vibrancy, just hits you basically. And of course, Becky, your mic is also orange in color. So, friends, orange economy is a concept which has got a push during the budget. Madam also spoke about it, Nirmala madam, in the budget. So Becky madam, you representing like one of the reputed like learning context from NISM side, how do you see this orange economy and the focus around how the people would be training themselves in terms of the creator economy or content economy? Or is it that something which young friends over here could be thinking of in some way as a serious career option, basically? Just a thought or any views around that, basically. And then we'll come to the concluding remarks. But thank you very much. You've been a wonderful audience. I hope all of you are absorbing as much as you can. But Becky, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think some spotlight on the orange economy has come because the government in the budget announced some initiative in the form of AVGC labs, animation, video gaming, comics, and they said that it can be integrated into colleges and schools, which is the first time they are formally sort of introducing it and bringing it as a part of the education system. As of now, the orange economy, if you actually see the numbers wise, it's probably less than 1% contribution to GDP. And globally also, if you see, probably, what is the economic survey says is somewhere around 0.7 to 7%. So the contribution to the GDP is still very, very low, but then a lot of people are involved in that.
Right.
So workforce wise or employment wise, or people who are in that sector, I think I saw some number of 8% somewhere. So from an employability perspective, it's really something which is coming into prominence. But I think we need to remember to not get the exuberance in terms of the GDP number. But if I see personally in the sense that NISM also, the way the content has evolved, NISM was established for certification exams for market intermediaries by SEBI, and our work study material or the content for those exams, what students have to study, is in the form of workbook. And earlier they used to be physical workbooks. We still have our partner.
I remember.
Taxman still publishes our books. Now, all our content, of course, we give it absolutely free because NISM is a public trust and the intent is not profit, but, capacity building and education. So our study material is completely free on the website. It's available in the form of a flip book, etc. It gets updated every 3 months instead of annual. So you see that clear change in that. In addition to that, we now have a digital content vertical, which has really become important. So from somewhere from 10, 15 e-learning programs, now this year we have 65 plus e-learning programs, skill development modules on our LMS. I gave the whole list to Dr. Oak so that the students can see. I think some of you may not be knowing. And to Vedant and other people's questions, in education, we don't judge. So if you want to do a course on equity derivatives, we have basic course, we have advanced course, and our courses. Some of our courses are priced so cheaply, they're less than a Starbucks coffee. So please come to the LMS and
have a coffee. Great. Okay.
Go through those courses.
Right.
The point is, the content, the digital content is obviously becoming very, very important. And recently, last year, Anil, to prepare our digital content, because we are preparing even more new courses. You are involved in one of the committees, wherever we have gaps. So we engaged a market research agency to do that. But, we floated a tender, which is as per our procurement guidelines. And that was a time when I saw that we got some 40 plus e-learning agencies from all over India bidding for our tender. And when we did presentations and we saw their things, we saw that the talent is so much there in India. The digital talent, the human talent is already there. So this orange economy, it's good to get a formal validation from the union budget and the government. But I think in terms of digital talent, in terms of the content creation, we are no less than other people. While we have challenges in the manufacturing sector, we need to do a lot for our farmers, agriculture. But I think one of the bright points I see that is in terms of,
creator economies.
Creator economy, we have the talent. How much of it can really translate into GDP? And for the people in that, how if they can make a sustainable long-term career? So that is definitely up there. There will be people who will make a lot of success stories, and content also, we are seeing a lot of it now, digital content. And
Great.
I also want to tell that our certification exams, if any of you have given the NISM exams, you normally you have to go to a physical test center. Okay. Yes. So yes. So all of you have to go. I mean, you would have gone to a physical test center, sat in front of a computer. There would be MCQs, and it will happen. Now we have just launched our first video content based
Right.
certification
Wow,
exam
nice.
for the very first time, and that is again like from a workbook physical thing. We have, so you go through the course, you go through the video, and then you take a proctored exam,
Wow,
whatever. So
interesting.
all these modes are coming, and this is how education is being
Education is
delivered in
changing,
more
yeah.
innovative ways, keeping the learner in the center. That how are they absorbing it? What is the
Great.
feedback coming
Okay.
from it? And so I think the orange economy is important part, but
Sure. Okay.
and there's great promise for
Great.
it.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for that. Okay, friends. So you've been a wonderful audience in this vibrant orange auditorium, state-of-the-art auditorium. All of you have got together to get a lot of learning from the discussions. I would like to thank Becky on behalf of everybody, Sunil, Sanjeev, Himani. Greatly appreciate once again all your time. And I hope all of you were able to get some learning, some insights, some takeaways, which will help you to decode not just the budget, that's for many others to do it, but to, in some small way, help you to decode your own career journey, your own learning journey of what currently you are over here in this wonderful institute of VIT. Thank you very much, friends. And some of us will be around for some more time. So any of you, I know a lot of hands had gone up for a few more questions. Do take time to catch up during the informal tea and networking break. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Before we culminate, I would request everyone to stand for Vande Mataram.
In honor of the national song, All good? Thank you so much. Thank you. चलो I know आपको 5 बजे के निकलना था तो I just thought I'll
Just just a second. Yeah. Okay. So we thank you all for your questions, and we also thank our speakers for an engaging and insightful discussion, as well as their discerning answers. We would like to invite Dr. Amit Ok to felicitate our speakers. And now I would like to invite Mr. Harsh Mittal, General Manager, to culminate with a thank you note.
Hi, everyone. How was the session? I'm seeing a lot of enthusiasm, everyone participating. So that's really nice to see. I have to do the thank you note. So here it is. Um, thanks a lot, all of you. I think it's been a great honor to host all of you to this budget session. Um, we at VIT, we are looking for more collaborations and more events where we can foster learning and growth of our students. So I think this is one of the events which moves in that direction. Thank you so much. I would like to thank Dr. Amritok, Dr. Saurabh Mehta, Dr. Tripti Nayak, and all our respected principals and vice principals of institutes for their support. Many thanks to all the students and faculty. I think a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of active participation, taking out time. And finally, I think the organizing team who are always behind the scenes, right? The support teams and the organizing teams behind the scenes. So thanks a lot and have a nice evening. Thank you. We'll just request for a group photograph with the faculty and everyone and the panel speakers, please.